Hello, my name is Maj Junaid, and along with my team members, Kennedy, Evan, Nav, Thanu, and Jordan, we will be talking about why Davis tea should be in Sweden. We'll be taking various factors into account. First, we'll talk about the country itself, and then the product, and then how we're going to synchronize the two to ensure that this venture is successful. Let's start with a few facts about Sweden. First of all, the capital of Sweden is Stockholm. Sweden is the largest Scandinavian Nordic country and is fifth largest in Europe, with approximately 400,000 kilometers square. Sweden shares its borders with Norway, Finland, and Denmark, and is connected all around Europe through different bridges, railways, and other roads. Sweden is a constitutional monarchy, and the king of Sweden currently is King Stefan Löfven. Swedish currency is the Swedish krona, which is, in respect to US dollars, one US dollar is 9.26 Swedish krona, and one Canadian dollar is 6.95 Swedish krona. Sweden is an ideal business environment due to its staunch stance on neutrality. Sweden has been involved in many mediating roles in various conflicts, and Swedish government officials have been called on to mediate many different conflicts all around the world. Sweden has a strong import and export structure, which is credited due to its high level of globalization, which is only second to USA. Now, let's talk about some population statistics. First of all, the population of Sweden is 10.1 million as of 2018. The male population is 5.1 million and the female population is around 5 million. The mean age of the population is 40.6, which is expected to grow in the future. The growth rate of the population is 1.1%, which is expected to gradually increase till 2030. The distribution of population under the age of 17 comprises of 21.1% of the population, while the 65 years and above is 19.9%, which makes our target market around 59.9%, which are the most common tea users. Now, let's talk about the population distribution within Sweden. Majority of the population is centered in urban population centers. 85.96% of the population lives in urban areas, while only 14.04% lives in rural areas. The population growth from the urban areas is around 1.43%, while the population growth in rural areas only is growing by 0.2% per year. Naturally, the most densely populated cities are the biggest business hubs, which comprise of the main three cities, the first being Stockholm, the capital of the country, which comprises of around 1.2 million people. The second most densely populated city is Gothenburg, which is around 0.5 million people, and the third being Malmö, which is 0.26 million. Now, let's talk about the population demographics. Due to Sweden's lenient immigration policies, there has been a huge influx of immigrants coming into the country and seeking asylum. Sweden comprises of numerous ethnicities, the largest minority group being the Swedish Finns, and the second largest being Meänkieli Finnish. There's a lot of other minorities as well, which include Finns, Yugoslavs, Danes, Turks, Greeks, and a lot of different countries from Middle East as well, including Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Syria. And especially with the current situation that has been going on for the last few years in Syria, there has been more than 110,000 asylum seekers and refugees that have been let into the country since 2016. Immigrants from Middle East have been rapidly growing, with immigrants accounting for more than 15% of the total population.
So when we look at Sweden's economic statistics and activity, we see that Sweden's GDP in 2017 was 535.6 billion USD, with a 2.1% growth recorded from the previous year. And this was due to improvements in exports. Their GDP per capita in 2017 was 52,000 USD. So Sweden's middle class has more than 1/5 of the country's wealth. When combined with the upper class wealth, the total is almost 97%, and they rank among the top 20 nations for ultra high net worth individuals. Sweden's inflation rate reached a 6-year high of 1.92% in 2018, and this was driven by the rise in the price of goods, higher food prices, and the country's weakened currency. So over 2019 to 2021, it is forecasted that the inflation rate will stay at an average annual rate of 1.8%. When looking at Sweden's employee participation, we see that the principal industries include mining, manufacturing, transport and communication, retail, and financial intermediation. In 2017, employers and unions agreed to hike the industrial workers' wages by 2% each year for the next 3 years. The public sector in Sweden remains significant in both terms of employment and value. So government spending amounts to more than 50% of GDP, and roughly 30% of all the services originate in the public sector in Sweden. Manufacturing makes up 14.4% of GDP, and the service sector makes up 75.1% of GDP. The total number of employed persons is expected to be 4.9 million in 2019. And due to growing economic activity, the decline in the working age population, Sweden's unemployment rate fell to 6.3% in 2018. Now we'll look at foreign investment. So the value of exports in Sweden was 152 million US in 2017. Major exports included machinery and electrical, chemicals, transportation, mineral products, wood and wood products. The advanced engineering sector means that machinery and electrical was Sweden's main export category. So the value of imports was 154 million. This was in 2017. Major imports include machinery and electrical, chemicals, transportation, mineral products. So required inputs into Sweden's manufacturing sector resulted in machinery and electrical being the largest component of total goods in 2017. Sweden is also a net food importer and relies on imports for most of its food products due to its small agriculture industry and problems that it has with drought. So the current account surplus was 2.9% of GDP in 2018 and will widen to 3.5% in 2019. Now we'll look at Sweden's development in science and technology. So Sweden is a leading country when it comes to science and technology. Green technology and life sciences are two fields in Sweden which Swedish researchers and companies excel at. The government has created an Office of Life Science dedicated to developing national strategy for life sciences to further promote this field. When it comes to research and development, Sweden proves its commitment by investing more than 3% of the country's total GDP in research and development. And this is higher than many other countries. A recent trend in Sweden is the push towards the development and implementation of green technology, and this is boosted by a renewable energy sector in Sweden. So now we'll look at the channels of distribution in Sweden. So Sweden's roads ranked 10th out of 223 countries, according to the CIA's World Factbook. Total highways in Sweden is 573,000 kilometers, and of that, 140,000 kilometers are paved highways. Sweden also has 11 ports and 1.5 million in container port traffic, and they also have an advanced rail network with 9,000 kilometers of rail lines.
Now for our analysis of media in Sweden. We found that 78% of Swedes have admitted to using a very high amount of media. We found that 81% of the population use television as their main source of media, and that 65% use social media networks daily. The rise in popularity of shopping through e-commerce platforms have also been noted, particularly an increase in popularity from 16% in 2012 to 54% in 2017. We also found that approximately 50% of the respondents in the survey, ages 25 to 34, preferred shopping through an app on their smartphone than through other channels. For the availability of media in Sweden, we found that the average Swedish household spends about $2,200 US on media consumption a year. The most is spent on digital media that requires an internet connection. Approximately $865 is spent yearly on internet services. Video media, such as television subscriptions or trips to the local movie theater, are the second largest media expense that they have there. The average cost spent on video media is about $700 a year. So the average Swedish household has access to a variety of channels of media. It's comparable to that of other first world countries in terms of what and how much they can access. So now to get into some other aspects of our country analysis, Sweden is located along the Baltic Sea and is in close proximity to Finland, Norway, and Denmark. Sweden is also a member of the European Union and offers free tuition to European Union students. We found that 26% of young adults are enrolled in higher education programs. Their government structure is a constitutional monarchy, very similar to Canada's. Currently, a Democratic Party holds the majority of the seats. Now we're going to get into the dietary trends. We found that the average Swedish diet is a lot more health conscious than the average North American diet. There's a focus on organic, locally sourced products. We also found that the number of vegetarians has increased since 2012 by 50%. It's currently estimated that there are 1.2 million vegetarians in Sweden and that most of them are between ages 15 and 24. So we found that there's a decline in carbonates and juices being consumed in Sweden due to the high sugar content. A lot of consumers are looking at water and tea as alternatives to these products.
So now we're going to look at the product itself and the ease of entry in the market and the ease of acceptance. So we're going to look at 4 factors such as relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, and trialability. When I mean relative advantage or compatibility, I mean what makes us easy to use, what makes us easy to accept in this market. The fact that the demand for loose leaf tea and tea itself has increased exponentially in the Sweden market, which is our advantage because that's our specialties. And also the fact that there's a 2.9% annual growth in the Sweden market. Therefore, when we go into there, we're going to see gradual growth. It's going to be sustainable growth. And also our values, David Seed's values and Sweden's values are interlocking since they both believe in sustainability, and since Sweden is 80% focused on sustainability and David Seed is focused their whole brand around sustainability. And we notice there's a lack of farmers and a growing demand for organic foods. David Seed specializes in organic foods, organic tea products, therefore it's something that we can really put our minds together and be compatible with the Sweden market, and which is also an advantage. The next thing we're going to look at is complexity and trialability. So complexity and trialability works in a way where is a product easy to use, is a product easy to learn, which is something Dave's Tea specializes again because it's such a product that is easy to use. There's no technical errors, there's no technical fear. Therefore, they can just take the product, try it with their tea. If they don't like it, they can try another product. There's 150 products to choose from in our inventory, and we also offer the experience of going into a store and the restaurants. We're going to place them in and try products. If they don't like it, they can get samples or they can move on to the next flavor. And we're going to try to put different products in different areas where one restaurant will have the same as the other restaurant. So if you like a flavor, you don't have to always go back to the same restaurant. You can always go to the restaurant that actually offers the flavor. Since we do have a largest collection of organic and infusion in North America, there won't be a problem for repeating flavors or not finding the flavor you don't like. And also the fact that we will actually walk you through the steps and we'll give you samples for you to find the perfect flavor. And that's the product, and I feel these 4 factors really help us understand the consumers and our ability to be accepted in the Sweden market because we have relative advantage, we're compatible, we don't have a product's not had high complexity, or we have trialability, and that's where we're found on, where we can go into a store in Canada also and try a product as a sample, and if you don't like it, move on to the next one. So this will make our product a success in the Sweden market.
When identifying the geographical regions to bring David's Tea to, there were several factors that were considered. The purchasing power in Sweden is roughly 9.1 to 1 in US dollars, which is significantly higher than that of Canada's. In terms of population, Sweden is fairly small, with only 10 million people compared to the 37 million in Canada. Sweden's population density, though, is much higher than Canada's, coming at 24.2 people per square kilometer because of the differences in geographical size. The main cities of focus for launching David's Tea are going to be the top 5 largest cities in Sweden that will allow us to reach as much potential market as possible. The cities that were identified are Stockholm, Göteborg, Malmö, Uppsala, and Sollentuna. Moving on to the forms of transportation and communication available in those regions. Sweden is a first world country with access to similar means of transportation to Canada. The majority of the population are car owners, which makes up 52.2% of the country, almost the same as Canada's. Traditional forms of communication such as radio, newspapers are still around in Sweden, however their popularity is declining. Television advertisements and online communications will be the choice methods for communicating with our target audience. Sweden has a very strict broadcasting law that heavily restricts advertising, which means that all of our television commercials will be broadcast from the neighboring UK, as this is a strategy currently used by other companies. In 2017, it was recorded that there were 8.4 million cell phone users in Sweden, which is why online and mobile communications will play a key role in reaching the highest possible audience. Moving on to consumer buying habits. Swedes have a lower social cost compared to many other European countries, and it is common for there to be 2 primary income earners per household. Sweden is one of the top ranked places in the world for overall life satisfaction with a rating of 9.1 out of 10. And as mentioned earlier, Swedes' buying power is significantly higher than that of Canada's. According to figures released by the Swedish consumer agency Konsumentverket, the average Swedish person who makes most of their meals at home spends about $180 per month on groceries. When comparing Hofstede's cultural dimensions of Sweden and Canada, it can be seen that the cultures are fairly similar. An important rating to note from Hofstede's graph is the high level of indulgence that the Swedes' cultures value. This is essentially a rating of how much Swedes treat themselves by eating out, spending extra money on high-priced commodities, and living luxurious lifestyles. Eating out and visiting cafes while working or meeting friends are becoming increasingly popular activities in Sweden, boosting food service volumes in the sales of tea. Swedes are very comfortable navigating the web, as 94% of the population being internet users, which is an indicator of high levels of online shopping. Moving on to the distribution of the product. Part of the plan to bring David's Tea to Sweden will be partnering with major wholesale retailers, selling product through local grocery stores, chains, and working with local cafes and restaurants. Working with the cafes and restaurants will allow the company to reach customers that are willing to purchase and try David's Tea products, while local retailers target shoppers looking to try different types of tea. The channel distribution of tea in Sweden is dominated largely by modern and traditional grocery stores, which comprise 97.2% of tea retail volume in 2018. Something to note is the downward trend of store-based selling retail, and the upward trend of non-retail store selling. This indicates that while the majority of tea is sold through retail stores currently, the trend is slowly declining and online sales are seeming to increase in popularity. In order to service the local shops and restaurants, David's Tea will set up a few product warehouses in major cities and in key areas that will stock the company's products and will allow distribution through all of our channels.
David's Tea uses a variety of advertising media to promote their business, as is listed on this slide. I'm going to go over a couple of examples with you on how they incorporate some of these tactics in their day-to-day activities. An example of how they use these partnerships is by partnering with the Me to We Foundation, which provides 2 weeks of clean water to developing countries that David's Tea ethically sources their raw materials for their tea from. The 3 countries that they focus on are Kenya, India, and Ecuador. And how it works is with the purchase of 50 grams of tea sourced from one of these locations provides a community within that country with 2 weeks of clean water. In the time that they've worked together, Me to We and David's Tea have helped over 71,000 people get 1 year of clean water. Now, the way that we use experiential marketing is David's Tea created a Toronto tea tour. And what they did was they provided 5,000 cups of free tea to help raise brand awareness and encourage product trials for their product and the 150 different flavors that they have. Lastly, we're going to talk about the loyalty program. How it works is they provide $1 1 point per dollar spent at their retail or online stores. Once you gain 100 points, you're able to redeem that for 50 grams of free tea. And additional to that, for every beverage you purchase, once you've purchased 10 beverages, your 11th beverage is free. So overall, the main focus here is that we recommend implementing these strategies in Sweden as well, as it relates to the Swedish culture of sustainability and being eco-friendly. Now to discuss the pricing strategy. Euromonitor International states that the prices for tea have gone up over this past year, and they're expected to increase again in Sweden. This is due to new products entering the market which provide added value such as health and well-being as part of the product. An example of that is a tea that provides different health benefits or helps you sleep at night. Additionally, raw materials in countries such as India are affected by global warming and droughts, which cause low yields, and that leads to higher costs. Now, our suggestions to David's Tea is that they should implement a penetration pricing strategy, as consumers are already having to deal with price increases, and they may hesitate to purchase new expensive products. Now we're going to talk about competitor products. So David's Tea's four main competitors located in Sweden are Lipton, Pukka, Twinings, and Friggs. All of these companies have taken into consideration ethically sourced materials, and one company goes above and beyond, which is Pukka, and they are additionally carbon neutral, they have a B Corp certification, and they've donated over $500,000 to environmental causes. However, none of these companies provide any reward or return to the customer directly. But all of these companies have one key thing in common. They focus on a key aspect of the Swedish culture, which is sustainability. In discussing competitor promotions, advertisements, and distributions, the focus of sales and retail distribution is in the grocery store, super, and hypermarkets. The competing companies focus their efforts on product packaging and ensure that it's eye-catching. Lipton takes it one step further and incorporates their sustainability certificate on the front of the packaging, as you can see on the slide. With e-commerce and online grocery shopping on the rise, there is more of a focus on convenience and home delivery. This can align well with David's Tea, as they've already started to sell their products online. This also provides David's Tea with a competitive advantage over the competitors in Sweden. And now to finally talk to you about market size. In 2018, tea sales equated to $75.7 million for the Swedish market. And of that, the relevant market size for David's Tea was $38.9 million. With an estimated 3% market penetration strategy, we believe that David's Tea could have a potential revenue of $1.2 million in their first year. With that, I'd like to conclude this presentation and thank you for your time.